What's up, beautiful people? It's your boy Judeo and I'm back again with a new video. Today we're going to be checking out a video by Dr Suneel Dhand. I hope I called the name correctly. It's spelled D-H-A-N-D. But yeah, the title of this one is Heart Attacks, Heart Diseases Soaring, Medical Establishment has an answer. So he's saying there's a cure for heart diseases. That's what I'm taking from that title, and that's what I'm going to be expecting from the video. But I'm ready for this one. It's going to be interesting, and without wasting your time, let's get to it.
I'm Dr Suneel Dhand. Welcome to another video. I'd like to think those of you who follow me here do so because you want open, honest debate. You want to arrive at your own conclusions. You don't want things shoved in your face. You want to hear things that are not entirely being reported in our corrupted mainstream media. And above all else, you want to live in reality. So on that note, I want to share with you a story which was recently reported about a solution from our medical authorities to the soaring rates of heart disease that we're seeing across the Western world. Now, I have been making videos recently about the alarming excess deaths that we're seeing, and cardiovascular related deaths seem to have also gone up dramatically over the last couple of years. But this is a problem which has been going on for some time. I have my own theories as to the pandemic factors that have contributed to the rise in excess deaths and cardiac related deaths. But let me share with you this story. So this was in CNN Health, so not the best source, I must confess.
Everybody's saying CNN is not the best source. I've known CNN my whole life. Basically, my childhood news were like 3 channels: CNN, BBC, and NTA, which is a Nigerian channel. So when people are now saying CNN is not the best source, I don't know.
Rarely watch or read CNN, but this is what it says. Combination poly pills can help solve world's heart problems, experts say, if more people can get them. An inexpensive poly pill is probably one of the best ways to solve the world's heart problems, prominent cardiologists say. What is a poly pill? Well, it's basically a pill that contains lots of different medications. So in this circumstance, they're talking about a combination of a medicine that can lower blood pressure, a statin that lowers cholesterol, a medication that can make the heart beat with less force, presumably that's a beta blocker, and sometimes aspirin. And they talk about it like a multivitamin for your heart. A multivitamin for your heart. What a novel concept that is, especially if we're talking
That was sarcasm. It sounds like it.
about prescription medication.
Let's take it back, guys. I'm sorry I stopped you right there, but it sounded.
Multivitamin for your heart. A multivitamin for your heart. What a novel concept that is, especially if we're talking about prescription medications. So they talk about heart disease being a global tragedy. It's the #1 killer in the world. About 18 million people die from heart problems every year. Around 54 million people live with heart disease. In the US alone, nearly half of adults have some form of cardiovascular disease, and one person dies of it every 34 seconds, according to the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
That's not good.
Those are terrible statistics for the United States, and anyone who thinks that it's normal for half of the population of any given country to have heart disease, please think again. That is not normal, and it's way off statistics for many other countries, including European countries. With risk factors such as obesity and diabetes on the rise, of course, that's the main reason why the United States has such bad statistics, because of lifestyle-related diseases. Heart problems will continue to grow. Of course they will, particularly in communities that are already disproportionately affected by health issues, like minority and rural communities. Scrolling down the article here to get to the main points, doctors point to a growing body of evidence that suggests that a poly pill can prevent heart problems with few side effects.
What are the side effects? Because usually they are more than what they solve.
In recent independent long-term trials, there was clear and resounding evidence that this pill really worked for primary prevention. Primary prevention, that's a big deal. Meaning a person could take it even if they hadn't had a heart attack or stroke, and as secondary prevention after a heart attack. Primary and secondary prevention are two very different things. Primary prevention is when you take a medical therapeutic before getting an event. You may have underlying risk factors, but you actually haven't got the illness yet. Secondary prevention is when you take a medical therapeutic after having an event, like a heart attack, and then you are put on pills. So primary and secondary prevention, very important to distinguish between them.
What's an example of a poly pill? Is that like a company producing it? Like, what is an example? If you guys know, please let me know.
We'll come more to the study in a little bit, but they talk about the data for primary prevention and secondary prevention with poly pills. Then there's some debate over who should get poly pills, and the FDA is seeking approval. So as always, when we see any story like this, always look at the actual study itself. That's the correct scientific thing to do. Never go on a media headline, go to the actual study. Let's check it out. So here it is in the New England Journal of Medicine, Polypill Strategy in Secondary Cardiovascular Prevention. So they're talking about secondary cardiovascular prevention, and the study is published in the edition from September 15th, 2022. Here's the abstract here, and we'll get to the main point here. It is a randomized controlled clinical trial. A total of 2,500 patients underwent randomization and were followed for a median of 36 months, so 3 years. And then they talk about the primary outcome event, which occurred in 118 of 1,237 patients, 9.5% in the polypill group, and 156 of 1,229, which is 12.7% in the usual care group. So they found that to be a significant difference. And I've talked before, and I'll talk again, about the difference between relative risk reduction and absolute risk reduction. But of course, like every medical and scientific journal, they're focusing on relative risk reduction. Then a key
But what's the difference though between relative and absolute?
Secondary outcome event occurred in 101 patients in the polypill group and 144 patients in the usual care group. So magnify this, they would have to treat a lot of people to see a very significant difference. The results were consistent across pre-specified subgroups. Their conclusion was treatment with a polypill containing aspirin, ramipril, and atorvastatin. So ramipril is an ACE inhibitor medication. Treatment with those three medications in a polypill within 6 months after myocardial infarction resulted in a significantly lower risk of major adverse cardiovascular events than usual care. But as always, one thing you should always do is scroll to the bottom and look at the conflicts of interest and financial disclosures. I already knew that this was a big issue, but the last couple of years have really opened my eyes and red-pilled me more to the reality of the ways of the world in medicine and science. It's very sad, but one has to be wise. So let's go ahead and do this for this particular paper in the New England Journal. Here we have a statement at the bottom, supported by a grant from the European Union Research and Innovation Programme. And then they've got a particular institute here called CNIC. And look at this, CNIC receives royalties for the sales of the polypill from Pharma International. That should come as no surprise at all. We must have our eyes open and our guard up to what medicine and science is really like. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, I don't take pride in saying this, but we all know the saying. 90% plus scientists and doctors will agree with whoever is funding them. That is the truth, and that's the way.
Absolutely. I've actually heard people say that in relation to the COVID crisis and the pandemic. You know, I've heard a lot of people say that about a vaccine. I'm not a professional, so I don't speak on those issues, but I've heard that before.
The world works. So we must know this whenever we're hearing anything about a particular drug or product being promoted, or a story in the mainstream media which may even be sponsored by the drug company itself. That is the world we live in. Let's focus on these points then. My first point, I'd like to come back again to primary versus secondary prevention. If we're going to be recommending a pill potentially to millions of people for primary prevention, we better have damn good evidence that it works, because I'm sure the big pharma companies have dollar signs in their eyes because so many people have underlying cardiac risk factors. If we're now talking about pushing a pill in people who haven't even had an event happen yet, that could be millions and millions of people. So we want to see strong evidence, not tiny absolute risk reductions.
We have to be sure that the positive outcome outweighs the side effects. We have to be sure. Otherwise, people just die in the future and didn't know that the drug they took years back.
Secondly, let's focus on the cost, because I'm sure this drug is not going to come cheap. Big pharma companies exist to make money, and they know that this could be a blockbuster drug if it worked according to their plans, i.e. gets rolled out to millions of people. Let's think about some medications like statins, for instance, which are in the polypill. Statins are one of the biggest blockbuster drugs of all time. The last statistics I saw were that from the early 1990s to the late 2010s, atorvastatin, Lipitor, made by Pfizer, raked in almost $100 billion. I repeat, $100 billion, which is more than the GDP of a small country. These are staggering sums of money. Thirdly, let's think about this. This is my area of interest as a physician who specializes in lifestyle medicine and metabolic health. We are again completely failing to really address the root causes. These rates of heart disease, which are off the charts in many countries, including the United States, are not normal. And they exist because we have the wrong lifestyles. These are lifestyle-related diseases. We could start with being all hands
Eating over-processed food, I've heard, is one of the causes.
on deck. If we were really public health authorities which wanted to care and focus on the true health and well-being of the population, we would be all hands on deck to discourage the consumption of ultra-processed foods which people are eating in record quantities, sugar which people are eating in record quantities. All of these things, along with being sedentary as well, are contributing to the disaster we are seeing. The answer is never going to be in a pill. The problem is going to keep getting worse and worse. More people will keep getting affected, and we are doing wrong by the people by focusing as the medical establishment on the answer being a medical therapeutic. It will not be for this particular question. So as for the last couple of years, why heart disease and heart attack rates have gone up with unique pandemic related factors, that's a whole different question. But again, metabolic health plays into a lot of this, and going back pre-2020, this was already a problem. We cannot neglect the role of one's baseline metabolic health, which most of us have complete control over, improving ourselves through lifestyle measures. Finally, remember this: modern mainstream culture will always want to push pharmaceutical products. That is the culture we are in, especially in the United States. We think that this is the answer to everything,
every problem,
and it's for many reasons, not least because of the power of these big pharma companies which are making hundreds of billions of dollars. It is estimated that 2/3 of Congress cashed a check from big pharma. We know that the numbers when it comes to lobbying power of big pharma are also off the charts.
Isn't that conflict of interest or conflict of interest? I believe that's what it's called. 2 checks of Congress, 2/3 of the Congress cashing from pharma companies or big pharma. Doesn't sound good.
Unbelievable. So we have the deck stacked against us. If we truly want to seek health and well-being through the right ways, we are fighting a big force that doesn't want us to adopt natural lifestyle measures to improve the situation. And that's why we're seeing the problem get worse and worse. There are too many different players involved here that want us to be on as many pharmaceutical products as possible. It's a mistake. The problem is going to keep getting worse, and I do wish that the medical establishment would realize this and focus its energy and attention where it should. I'm not saying you should never have medical therapeutics. You can certainly have drugs. Of course, it's great we're living in 2022 as opposed to 1622, but this is a problem which is not going to be fixed with medical therapeutics. And again, the last couple of years, things have got even worse. And I'm sure pharmaceutical companies are going to think that, yes, now that we're seeing the rates increase, it's time to push more and more drugs. I do not believe that that's the answer. Thanks everyone for listening. Dr. Suneel Dhand. Do let me know your thoughts down below. Hit the subscribe button for more similar videos in the future. Also hit the bell button so you get notified when I make more videos. Remember 3 things. Modern mainstream culture will make you very sick very fast. Sadly, a lot of healthcare and medicine has become very corrupted indeed. And fewer things are to be more cherished than our freedom. Do also come follow me on my uncensored platform, Local.
Okay. That was a very, very good video. You know, this polypill tab or drug or whatever, It sounds like a miracle drug to me, you know, from how it was, the video, you know, how it was written and those documents he presented or the data he presented really sounded like a miracle drug. Even the paper was, the sample size seemed good. 2,400 people were tested within the period of, I believe, 36 days, he said, 3 months. Sounded like good data, but he also said who's funding the research. So if they say this polypill is a miracle drug, that is exactly what is going to be seen on the research paper. So yeah, he made a good point. And also he spoke about having polypill is not the root cause, or I didn't think he completely said it's not. He said might not be the best way to solve heart problems. He said instead we should check the root cause, which is processed food. I strongly agree with that point. Because remember times where, I haven't done any research on this, but I just know, like, growing up, this wasn't as rampant. Cancer, heart diseases, they were not as rampant. The question is why? Why is it happening now? It's because we're eating so much processed food, breathing in processed air, everything we do, wearing processed clothes, everything is just, yeah, the world has changed, bro. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you want us to bring more videos like this to the channel to enlighten us and brighten our days a little bit, or maybe cloud it a little bit, but at least provide knowledge, let me know. If there's a particular video you want to see, send me the links and we'll check it out together, or you can send me the title, I'll go search for it. But yeah, I had a good time watching that one. It's the end of this video. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Peace.